simple. As you can see, I've already prepped the canvas with a fluorescent blue underpainting. Now, if you want to know why blue underpainting for this reference, you can follow the link which I'll be sharing in the description. It's called Toning Secrets Revealed, where I spill all the beans on underpainting. Now, what am I painting today? I'm going to be painting this lovely reference that I've got from Instagram. It's for the food paint challenge. It's an old one, and the colors that I'm going to be using are, they're pretty simple colors and a limited color palette. There's titanium white, there's cad yellow deep, there's naphthol red light, cerulean blue, and burnt umber. So this is my color palette today, and I'll start sketching with the Camel acrylics. I'm using a green, minty green color to sketch this reference. So you can just see I'm going to be going really loose with it. That's it. So we have, and instead of going with straight lines, I'm just going in with curves. This keeps it pretty loose. Maybe it's not really visible over here because the green is clashing with the blue, but once I start painting, both these colors will be quite visible. And we have and over here too. So I would love it if you've joined the live, you could share your names in the chat. It would be wonderful to, have a conversation. And I don't take too much time to sketch because I want to keep it loose. So the best thing would be just give a basic outline to everything and leave it at that. Okay? We've got the sketch down. A little bit of the shadows too would be good, for reference. So we have a shadow. Hello, hi Nia Faze, right? Or Faze? Did I pronounce that right? So just having a basic sketch really does wonders. Even if you want to go loose and you don't want to go messy, this works really well. I'll just share the reference. Hi Nadia, so good that you could join in. So this is the reference. It's an old reference from the food paint challenge on Instagram. Oh, that's wonderful, Nia. That's really great. So how's the weather out there now? It's really raining out here. So it's good fun. I love the rains. And now let's get started. Now, as I said, I'm going to be using a limited palette. This is my palette. There is just the basic primaries. These are the traditional primaries. That is, we have the cadmium yellow, we have the naphthol red, we have a cerulean blue, which is actually not traditional primary. It is more from the modern primary family. And I have a burnt umber over here and definitely titanium white. So how do we go about it? We've got the sketch, we've got an underpainting. Let's get started. So we could go two ways. There is one way where we go in with the darks. So we start with the darks and then we move on to the lights. Okay? Whereas, this is acrylics and oils, we go with that method. Or you could go like the watercolor method where you start with the lights and then you go into the darks. Now, I prefer going from dark to light. Yeah, it's been long, Nadia. So good to have you back. So let's just go ahead with this, with darks now. So let's start with darks. So what are the areas? Now I usually do a value sketch. Now what's a value sketch? Now this is a value sketch of the same painting. It is just a kind of a reference for me, and I understand how I have to place my colors. So this usually stays, it's like a guide map or something, which shows you how you can, where you have to put your dark colors and where you have to put your light colors. That's it. That's what it just tells you. It's like a map. So I'll be mixing in first the colors for the grapefruit. Okay. So the grapefruit has a lot of red. It's quite dark. As you can see, it's quite dark. But I'm going to be adding in, I'm going to be taking some artistic liberty over here. I'm going to be not painting it exactly the same way. I'm going to be a little creative where I'm going to be changing the colors a bit. Okay. So I'll start with the darks. So for the darks, I'm taking in the red. Just a teeny weeny bit of the blue. Just a teeny weeny bit. See, I'm already removing this. And I'm darkening this. Okay. Now, how do you darken a color? You can darken a color in two ways. Okay, you use the complementary color. Actually, three ways. You can darken a color in three ways. You use a complementary color, or you could use a neutral. We have a neutral over here. We could take a neutral. Okay, just a teeny weeny bit. Again, that darkens it really well. So where is the areas where I'm going to be putting in the darks? So as I can see, and I'm using a large brush. Why a large brush? Because a large brush will keep it loose. Later on I can shift to a detailed brush, but when I'm starting off, it's best to start with a larger brush so you don't get too tied up with, oh, I have to put a highlight here. We've just got the darker centers here. Now red is quite a difficult color to darken as well as lighten, because if you make it light, red becomes like a peachy color, or it could go into a different direction where it goes into like really a dark brown. So it's really a difficult color because its tone is quite mid-tone. So you have to be careful. And I'm just laying down the color. I am not interested now over here to paint it like in every detail. Just adding in the colors. Very just leaving it. Place a brush stroke and leave it. Alter it slightly if you want. And I am not mixing a lot of color. So what do? Once I go back, I usually dip it again in the red and the blue, mix it over here, and go like this. Okay, we've got some of the colors ready now. Now what happens is sorry about that. Now I want to show this is in shadow. And though the colors are looking pretty similar, I'm going to go a little darker over here. Okay, so taking that red and now taking that neutral burnt umber. A bit more, I guess, because I want it really dark now. More towards that brownish or slightly purplish also will do. And this is definitely darker than these colors. What I'm going to be doing is just this is quite dark. Maybe, even in these centers, I could use that. Yeah, that would be nice. That's slightly darker. So we've got this. It's time to clean up this brush. Take a wet wipe, or you could use a rag. I use a rag because I don't like wasting too much of paper. So just wiping it. I'm not washing it off because I don't mind this color. It's the same family that I'm going to be mixing now. And now I'm going to go for a lighter tone. So I'm going to take this red and I'm going to take a little bit of that cadmium. And it's still red, but it's a little lighter than this. You can see The values are different now. It's a little lighter. Just adding it a bit more of that yellow. Maybe a little bit of that white too. Now white should be used like salt. Too much and your painting goes really chalky. Just a teeny weeny bit. Yeah. Maybe it needs a bit more of the salt. And yes, I like this color. So now we're going to be placing this color we've got this covered. If your brush, leaves these kind of dry tones or some dry drags, you could just dip it in a little bit of water, wipe that water off again, and then again, and you'll get a smooth. Okay? So we've got this covered. Now what I want over here is, along with this, I want it slightly glowing. Okay? So again, I'm going to be wiping this brush now. Again, with just, as long as I'm going to be staying in the orange or the red family, I'm not going to be too bothered about washing this. Because once the water gets inside over here, it gets really bad because it drags this color inside over here. So you're not going to get pure mixes later on. Now again, I'll be taking this yellow and I've clearly mixed a nice orange. And I'm going to be putting this okay. Maybe just drag this a bit more here. Yeah. Again, I need this color also in places like these places. So just to have a bit of that shine. Just adding more variety into the color. Okay. So we've got this. At the moment, it looks kind of weird, but that's okay. This is the initial layer. We don't need to be worried too much about, getting that perfect painting in the first layer. Maybe, certain areas have been remaining. And yeah. And there's always the correction layer, so don't worry about that. So we've got this down really well. Really wiped my brush well. And now it's time to paint the skin or the peel of the grapefruit. And for that, now we're going to be again seeing there's a lot of shadows. Like this area is under shadow. So it's pretty similar to this. Again, these areas are not very bright, even though it looks quite white. We need to be careful about this. We cannot use too much of white. So what do we do now? For this area, we're going to be mixing two colors. One is going to be with yellow. Okay. Or maybe we could go with slightly, a kind of a, it has, as you can see, it has a lot of orange in it. So we could go with a bit of the red too in this. And that would be nice. And this is the color that we've mixed. It's not too white, as you can see. But I want to, slightly make it muted. So going in with that burnt umber, just a teeny weeny bit. Yeah, that's good. Again, we are still in the orange family. So what are we going to be doing now? Adding this. Okay. We could also go. And if your brush feels dry, as I said, just, what do you do? Dip it in water and wipe it off. We don't want it too wet. And what are we doing? Just filling in the areas, letting some of that blue show in, and we can decide later on whether we want to leave it that way or we want to add more color. Yeah. So we've got this pretty decent. We also need to add it over here in the center where we have, and you could go with a smaller brush later on, but at the moment I just feel that we could just add it lightly over here, and then later on we could go in for refinement in the later stages. Again, need to mix in more color. And you might wonder, why not mix the color, initially mix a large quantity of color and then work on it. I would say don't do that. Since you're working with a limited palette, you know what you're mixing. Don't mix everything on one go unless you're doing a really large painting, because then you get a lot of variety. There is always subtle differences in the shades, and that makes it really interesting. So here the color is more lighter, I feel. So we could go with a little more white over here and a little bit of that yellow. And yes, and yeah, you could also add more variety in this color. Now see, you can see that this is more lighter. So some places we want it darker. So we need not go with the same color. Again, the brush needs to be a little more wet. It's like you wet the beak. Don't give it too much. Okay, now what has happened is you can see this shape, though I think I went a little overboard with this. So I'm going to be adding a little bit of this. To give it that shape, because it's looking kind of weird. And now one more thing that I'm going to be doing is this center. Now it has a kind of a lip. Yep. And then we have this. Okay. Now this is done. This part. Now you have to remember this is in the shadow. Now if this is in the shadow, It needs to be a little toned down. It need not be this bright. Also, we need to bring a dirty color in it, that is like a burnt umber, and a little bit of that blue. Now what does that do? It just basically tones down that color and makes it more interesting. And I'll show you how different that color feels. Just a bit of that red, I guess. Okay. Now this, it's still pretty similar to this color, so we need to go a little more darker. Maybe add in a little more blue. And let's see. No. A little more blue. Yeah, I like this. And you can see it's quite dark compared to this now. Just a teeny weeny bit of this. Yeah. So we've got this now. Again, just wiping off this brush, which is necessary to keep your colors clean. You could also go in with another brush if you feel that you don't want to, keep cleaning again and again. But I like to go with one brush as much as I can for the first layer, and then for the next layer shift onto a smaller brush. So that just gives a lot of differences in the brush work also. Okay. Now we go in with the shadow areas over here. You could also just we have something like this over here. Okay, just leave it at that now. Again, wipe your brush and let's go with the shadow. Now this is quite a light white color background, but I was thinking let's go with green. So for green, I'm using the cerulean blue, and I think I'll go with the minty green. Lots of white. I need lots of white. So for the shadow, we will go in with something darker. So we could go with a little bit of that blue, a little bit of that red, and create a nice shadow. I have still not washed my brush, and this is because I want some dirty colors over here for the shadow. So maybe when I'll go in with the lighter colors, I'll go and wash my brush. But till now, I have not washed my brush. So let's go now with this shadow color. So we have a little bit of water to just let it flow smoothly. Okay. Now this shadow is there, and then we also have this shadow. If you can hear my dogs barking, we have this shadow also in place. Just a little brush work, that's it. And then we have and this is going to be kind of till here. I just feel this shadow is looking kind of weird. I made a mess out of it. So but yeah, we can correct it later on. There are certain darker spots behind over here, so we could take a little bit of that blue, a little bit of that red. When you're working with a limited palette, it's so easy to mix color. And just adding some darker shades. Just a little bit. And don't bother so much about, the color going onto the other area. We always have time to correct it. We always have time to make it better. Okay, again, I'm going to be just wiping off this because now I need some lighter tones. This will be easier, maybe more light over here. Okay. Now again going for a really light color. Minty yellow or minty, I should say minty green. Yeah. Because it's quite white, so I don't want to change the value too much, but I want a hint of green in it. That's it. So yeah, I have that color now, and let's go ahead with that. My phone just got off now. Yeah. Little bit of water for the color to flow in smoothly. Let's make it a little more green. More green in it if you want to, increase the contrast over here. Just a touch of water. We can always add this area. Definitely quite a lot has been covered now. So we've done with the first layer, nearly done with the first layer. And we can see that yes, we can clearly see our shapes have been defined. It's now time to let this brush go, wash it off, clean it, leave it in water if you want. I don't prefer leaving it in water. I just wash it off, wipe it, and I keep it on the side so that I can wash it off properly with soap later on. Let's come to the second layer now. And for the second layer, I'm going to be using a smaller brush. There are a lot of things that need to be defined well. As such, this has a peel which has to be added. So now, also maybe first we'll go in with the shadow areas which need to be, shadows are always soft. So we could just soften them a bit. Yeah. You could add another color if you want, but I'm just going in with this now at the moment. And that really makes it look much better. Okay. Again, this shadow. And this area. The shadows are quite soft now. Now we could go with some more color over here. I would like to go in with a little brighter color, or maybe a warmer color, so adding in more yellow in it. So we have a little bit of the yellow, a lot of white, and then again blending it into this. Yep, you could add this in different areas where you want to show, some little variation in the background. Yeah. Oops, I put it in water, but it's okay because I wanted to go in with the orange now. So sorry for that. And now going in with some orange just to make some interesting marks. Yeah. Again reducing this too. Now that kind of messed up over there, so we can make corrections. It looks nice. A little bit of the white. And we have maybe the darker color over here. And yep, that's it. I always now go back from this painting for some time so that I can look back at it and maybe do corrections if needed, but not now. Keep it light, keep it a little loose. That's how I like it. And I hope you guys enjoyed this live. And if you have any questions, you can always put them in the chat box. If you're watching the live, that's great. If you're watching it a replay, that's even greater. So you can let me know what kind of lives do you want. And check my page for a lot of different links that you'll get. And so from here, we went to here. And I hope you enjoyed it. This was in acrylics with a very limited palette. And bye-bye for now and see you soon again. Take care. Love you. Bye-bye.